am hopeful that as we are working with division and decimals, you are realizing that when there are powers of 10 involved, one with zeros, the math part, the calculations, are not terribly tricky. I am also going to want to have you focus then on what patterns can you find to make them even less tricky. We did these long division yesterday. Now we are going to write them out as we did a few days ago so that you can see the division problem, the dividend, the divisor, and the quotient, and begin to find those patterns more quickly than you can when all of the work is involved. That means I'm going to be using the green. No, I'm not going to. The green I did for multiplication, didn't I? I knew there was a reason for that. So we'll just use regular pencil here. This problem was 35 divided by 10, and the answer was 3 5/10. I probably started over a little bit too close to this side, didn't I? Make sure the decimals can be seen very easily. The next problem then was 3 5/10 divided by 10, and that came out to be 35 hundredths. So look at what happened to the decimal between these two. Now we go 35 hundredths, divide that by 10. That came out to be 35 thousandths. And finally, we started with 35 thousandths, divided that by 10, and ended up with not 35 thousandths, because tenths, hundredths, thousandths, but 10 thousandths. So you have to be careful not only with your decimals, but with your zeros as well, making sure that you have the right number. So these problems match up with the long division over there. But you can see what's going on a little bit better with the decimals, having written them this way. You'll notice I'm not telling you a pattern yet. Yeah, we're working on it, but that won't come for a couple of days yet. We will now write these out as well, but we're going to write them still inside, between these two columns. We need this space for something else today. So the first problem up here was 35 divided by 100. So 35 divided by 100 came out to be 35 hundredths. Then we took 3 5/10, divided that by 100, and got 35 thousandths. Definitely don't want to run that into the problems. Want to keep this separate here. This problem started as 35 hundredths, and we divided that into 100 pieces. Well, it makes sense that we're not going to have very much at all. No tenths, no hundredths, 3 thousandths, and 5 10,000ths. This final problem was 35 thousandths in the first place, and we divided that into 100 groups, and we came out with no tenths, no hundredths, no thousandths, 3 10,000ths, and 5 100,000ths. So this would be read as 35 100,000ths. Not a large amount at all. you should see some things that are staying the same and some patterns of what is happening with the decimals. So this sort of shows you, oopsies, where these answers match up with the long division. It's easiest to see the patterns written this way, but you can sort of see some of the patterns when you look at the long division as well. New patterns to look at today? Well, we are going to do 35, and we are going to divide that by 1/10. What do we do when there's a decimal on the outside? We need to move the decimal so that we have a whole amount. Whatever you do to the outside decimal, you must do to the decimal under the bracket and bring it straight up into the answer. I call that edging. You can call it whatever you want. Fill all of your spaces. And then you just divide. What times 1 equals 3? Well, that would be 3 times 1, and that's exactly 3. Bring down the 5. 1 times what equals 5? That would be a 5. What is 1 times 5? 5. Bring down the 0. You must divide by it because it is in the whole number side of the decimal. 1 times what equals 0? Nothing. So our quotient here is 350. We are now going to continue starting out with 35. Oops, I better give myself a little more space. 35. Dividing it this time by 1/100th. I can't just move the decimal once. I can't edge it once. I have to edge it twice to get a whole number in the divisor, which means I must fill not just one place, but 2 places to make sure the decimal is moved correctly in the dividend. So I need to divide by all 4 of these numbers. 3 times 1 is 3. 0. So I bring down the 5. 5 times 1 is 5. Nothing when I divide, so I just bring down the 0. 1 times 0 is 0. Bring down the next 0. Again, 1 times 0 is 0. There's nothing left on the whole number side to bring down. This is my final answer. Next, we are going to do 35. And we will need to skip a line again. Divide it by 1/1000th. Do you think this quotient will be larger or smaller? Well, we're still taking 35 whole things, but now we're dividing them into sections that are 1/1000th. So we should get a whole lot out of this 35. The math, we must move the decimal until we have a whole amount. So this decimal must move once, twice, 3 times before it can come up into the quotient. What do we do in those 3 places that had nothing? We show that there was nothing. Then we divide through. We just treat this like a 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Subtract, you get a 0, so just bring down the 5. 5 times 1 is 5. Subtract, get a 0, so you bring down the next 0. 0 times 1 is 0. Subtract, you get down to 0, so you bring the next one. This is where it's really important to show that you are bringing down the zeros and to write your multiplication above the number you just brought down. 0 times 1 is 0. I have one more 0 before the decimal. I must deal with it. 0 times 1 gives me that 0. 35,000 is my final answer here. All right then. One more pattern. 3 more divisions. We are going to start with 3 5/10 and divide that by 1/10. Move the decimal once in each place. 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down the 5. 5 times 1 is 5. There's my final answer. What happens if we take 3 5/10 and divide it by, you guessed it, 1/100th? Have to move this twice, have to move this one twice. How do I show there was nothing there? Put the placeholder, but I must divide through by each digit that is in the whole number side of the decimal. 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down the 5. 5 times 1 is 5. I get a 0 when I subtract, so I just bring down the next number, which happens to be a 0. Nothing times 1 equals 0. You notice how fast this is going. The last problem here is going to be 1,000th as the divisor. The dividend is going to be, throw you off a little bit, 3,500ths. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ignore those and divide. 3 times 1 is 3. Bring down the 5. 5 times 1 is 5. Bring down the 0. 0 times 1 is exactly 0. Now there's some really interesting things happening, aren't there? Is it possible that this quotient is 350 and that quotient is 350? Well, you could always go get a calculator and check. You do need this in your math folder copied down. So this section is new. This whole page should look like this. When you return to sit in front of me, hopefully in January, you will need this page looking like this. So if you don't have it yet, you had better get it. Now we need to look at your homework. So your homework today, your assignment today, is linked up so that you click this link. You will begin it with Google, but I already have it open in another tab because it doesn't let me take it. And it's supposed to let me preview it. Come on. Preview. There we go. I had it all set and then it decided to close itself out. This is your assignment today. And you'll notice all the work that I did was long division. You only need to do the 5 that have these blank boxes. And you are able to show your work right in here. It would be an option for you to print this out and have the assignment. But I've discovered on this sheet, if you do your work right here, you could do, maybe it won't let me do this because this is just a preview. I bet that's it. If you do writing on the sheet, that's why. It doesn't want to let you do it off on the white space. So it doesn't give you as much space as I had thought it did to do the assignments right here. And you see how messy the writing gets anyway. So I would suggest that you only do your work on a piece of paper that you can take a picture of and email it to me. I do want to see the long division, but your answers get typed right in here and it will tell you if you are correct. The reason I had it show you all of the answers to the other problems, you should be starting to come up with an idea of what a pattern is when you are dividing by powers of 10. Powers of 10, remember, have zeros and ones. That makes them a power of 10. And so when you are dividing by a power of 10, you should begin to see patterns with the answer. Here you started with 8 4/10. When you divided it by 1/100th, all of a sudden you still have an 8 and a 4 in your answer. The decimal is just at a different place. No, I'm not telling you any more of those. Yes, I want to see long division today. But at the same time, I want your brain to be working and looking for that shortcut. Those 5 answers in the teacher-made worksheet right here like this is your homework assignment. I also want to see the work for the long division. Thank you very much, my dear sweet children who I miss so much. Bye.